Welcome to the Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe. In this episode, I chat with Gunther Klessinger of Axiros about managed broadband, quantum physics, and the importance of standards in helping operators stay relevant. Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Epik Mellon podcast. I believe this is episode 16. And I'll stop guessing eventually. When we get in the hundreds, I'll stop saying what episode number it is. I have Gunther here with me from Axiros, and man, do we have some crazy stories.
Don't remind me. How long ago? 2006.
Man,
Yeah.
it's got to be 2006. Yeah. Tier 69 plug fest. I'll get into that in a minute.
We get there. Okay.
So welcome to the Epik Mellon podcast, where we interview the real people behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. My name is Jason Walls from QA Cafe, and QA Cafe are the hosts of this podcast, entirely funded by my employers. As such, the views expressed by myself and Gunther do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its ownership. I imagine it's the same with you.
Same with me.
But I imagine they've gotten used to you by now.
Yes.
Also, QA Cafe makes three great products for network testing and network analysis, and those are CD Router, CloudShark, and Passport. CD Router is the industry standard test solution for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi routers, and other customer premises equipment. CD Router contains thousands of fully automated test cases designed by network experts covering feature validation, stability, certification, and performance all in one. Moreover, QA Cafe's world-class support team acts as an extension of your own, those great guys right out there, helping you understand the technologies and build better products overall. Secondly, CloudShark is the way to make network packet captures an easy and useful part of your cybersecurity workflows. CloudShark helps you work on tough issues together without passing around large trace files, losing data, or risking security leaks of valuable information, and helps entry-level analysts learn from your senior experts, curate best practices, and standardize operating procedures around packet captures, which is really surprising that not a lot of people do that. It's like the thing that everybody forgets is PCAPs floating around in.
Not everybody.
Good, I'm glad. Lastly, QA Cafe's Passport is a fully automated solution for testing the connectivity and interoperability of IoT and smart home devices. Testing with Passport is as simple as connecting your device, selecting tests, and getting clear pass-fail results with full log data and packet captures to find and resolve bugs before they end up as a bad review of your product. You can find out more about CD Router, CloudShark, and Passport at www.qacafe.com. Okay.
Okay, we are done. Bye, Jason. That was nice.
Yeah. Thanks for being on for that.
Yes.
So I've known Gunther for 17 years now. And man, have things changed over that time.
Yep.
So he works for Axiros. You can see the sign behind him if you're watching on video. And I met Gunther at one of the original. I've talked about the protocol that I work on primarily at the Broadband Forum many times on this show. The original one, which was TR69, now USP. And we used to do these things called plug fests, where everybody would come together and test both sides of their implementation, right? So in the protocol world, you generally have what, for lack of a better term, clients and servers. And they serve different purposes.
Like this, yes.
Yeah, and people build different pieces. And so a plug fest is where everybody gets together and tries to get all their stuff to work together. And so at that time, and I'll let you tell the story rather than me telling you your story. That's when Axiros was brand new. So how did you get to the point where you decided to even do this?
Good question. Is so how could an unfunded 15 people back then company from the enterprise market decided to go full into telco, right? And even land. It was a wild ride. The reason was that we actually did the same stuff before, already in the 6 years before. I never even looked into telco in that time, but we wanted to manage routers from remote already for a certain application, which was ubiquitous internet via Wi-Fi. So
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
right. That was my first disruptive change when Wi-Fi was unified. I was back then in Siemens, and the moment when these guys put up that access point and we could talk to this thing over the air and get internet without having to have a proprietary wireless technology in our laptop, that was just huge. I mean, that was like, okay, you can now have on the go internet,
Yeah.
in hotels, in airports, everywhere.
Right.
And I first tried to land this within Siemens, but it's I was just too small a number there
Yeah.
to.
They make everything.
They make everything. Yeah, that's the second part of the name. Yeah, that's the first part translation. We don't say that here. I loved the company for many reasons. Really was a really good landing in the industry after university, but it's not like a guy from
So you
a
went
little
straight to Siemens right out of
right
university.
out of university.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
went first to semiconductors for 2 years, and then I learned to know a guy, Martin Bokamper, who was working there, and he did cool things. And I, I knew him from a conference, many reasons.
Right.
And one of his ideas then led to the founding of Axiros. He had really a crazy idea back then, for exactly the use case I wanted to do, this wireless internet for everybody in hotspots,
Yeah.
in hotels, in airports, where a lot of stress is. It's not only the router configuration, but it's also about what you see then. When you open your laptop, you are connected magically, back then,
Right.
magically
Right.
connected. What do you get? What do you see? What are you offered with? And that and his idea was to you really use a content management system for
Hmm.
for delivering the content. I mean, this is by definition designed to deliver content to humans in very
Oh, interesting.
stackable
Okay.
ways,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and with many guys with different authoritative permissions can influence what this rendering result is being then,
Hmm.
um, and all the security you had already. And his idea was use something like that to also configure configurations for the devices, the remote devices you want to configure. Because also there, if you look at a Cisco iOS config dump, you understand that there are many parts which only a very small group of people should be allowed to change, while
Right.
other parts are very location specific, right? And
Yeah.
or even setup specific there, and unique. And a content management system to use this for the job, to not only render visuals for a human, but a configuration for devices, remote
Neat.
devices, was a neat idea. And it
Was
worked out so well. It worked out so well for the first 6 years for our I left Siemens. You got it right. I
Yeah.
could not
Yeah.
land the idea in Siemens. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
so I decided, okay, I do it on my own, and I used this system, this content management system he proposed, a free one, open source one, and we did pretty cool things on remote little devices. Found a guy, an embedded hacker, who could, back then, this was before everybody had to open source the firmware.
Yeah.
But this was before the GPL. But he was still able to.
We were talking about that with Joao, and actually I was talking about with John Blackford too on the
Right.
previous episodes about how it's like, and when we get to talking about TR69, it's like it's not just that the open source community was different. Like there at
It was.
going back that far, it almost didn't exist,
It didn't
right? So
exist
people
exactly.
just did things differently.
Yes. But I found a guy who was open to take a screwdriver and open this AllNet router for 15 Deutschmark or so. No, it was already Euro time, let me think. I don't know, but cheap. And he opened it and he could solder a console onto the main.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
And then he got a terminal, and he somehow magically was able to upload software into the device.
Wow.
That the guy's name, Daniel Egger. Maybe you heard of that guy.
Oh, so does that make him employee number 2?
That is employee number 2, exactly. Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I
for the audience,
that.
Daniel Egger is still our guy in the broadband forum, defining the.
I
USP
work with
standard.
him daily.
Right, a personality, right?
Yeah. He is. I like to say so. To get to the people aspect of all this, right? Like,
yes.
When I'm doing standards, like when I'm managing the standards group, I joke about how I have like a control panel with different people on it, and I'm like, if I need the Daniel voice right now, I hit the Daniel button.
You have the Daniel button, okay? Yeah, no, it's. I don't have a Daniel button. That would overload me, I think.
No, I'm going to have to call him out that we're talking about him right now.
Yeah, no, I guess he will listen. He'll find the time. Hi, Daniel. But you had him anyway already on the podcast. You said
no, I have not yet.
Not as a main.
Oh, you're right. He was in the background. Yeah,
exactly. He was in the background.
Yeah.
Yes. No, this was the beginnings of what we did. So we remote control devices via our content management system, shipped initial configs, and also during the life cycle updated the configs and deliver the portals for the humans, in the NATed range behind the devices as seen from the internet. And it was pretty cool. I valued it so much that you have internet just, on the go, that that we did not just open the door for everybody in the same way, but we already used, traffic control commands so that everybody could decide on this portal how big the pipe should be, for money. And also you could naturally, when you're on a Linux kernel, you have for free basically redirection, you have firewalling, you can have blacklisting, everything. The kernel can do so much on.
Oh yeah.
And if you can fully control it with root permissions from a central server based on central state in a database, a user profile, maybe just created a minute before because the guy entered a credit card number or whatever, or authorized as the boss of the company, and he can do what others can't on a low level. That was just so cool.
And it's funny because we talk about having the internet everywhere, and I'll get to my side story about that in a minute. But the fact that like that management is now almost even more important now than it was before, right? Because you have so many different use cases of people all trying to do different things that all need different things from the network. And way back then, when we first had it, we were like, thank goodness I'm just connected.
Yes.
And, and now it's like way different. And I was just ruminating. We were just talking to my teenager about how I was trying to like remember how we did things before we were constantly connected to the internet. Like coordinating meeting at a place. Right.
Yeah, face to face, and it's crazy. Right. And how is it now? I have to stop. I'm meeting you right now.
Yeah.
So on the street,
Right. Oh, I see you.
I see you. Yes.
Yeah.
Funny. Yeah, but those were the beginnings, and so we did this device configuration via our own little proprietary means. This was basically just shipping Linux commands back and forth between central systems.
Yeah, so you had the client side too. You weren't just like
we had both
interfacing
sides,
with Cisco iOS.
We
It
had both
was, yeah.
sides. We didn't do it on Cisco's, but on normal Linux routers. Then with the GPL, Linksys had to open, and Linksys was pretty proactive here. They really delivered all the means so that people can really build software on top of their routers, right? With this WRT 54s and whatnot. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and we had Linksys in our little garage back then, and
Right.
they wanted to see who we are, because we did really cool things with their routers and delivered a lot of value for them. And so they were deployed in hotspots, mainly in hotels, I have to say, but also
Cool.
more high end hotspots like in Frankfurt, the fairground. Man,
Yeah.
I hacked Windows terminals for payment machines back then. It was crazy time, But you are young, you need the money, and so that's. And in 2006, we even managed, all the stadiums for the soccer championship in Germany back then in 2006. That
I
was
was going to
cool.
ask. I was going to ask if you guys did the stadium things.
We did the
I
stadium
expected
things
that
there,
of you.
yeah. Because there,
Cool.
this bandwidth control was really important. They sold Deutsche Telekom or T-Systems. They sold this to the agencies of the world, and it was, in a stadium, these guys which sit around the soccer place, they produce really a lot of gigabytes, But and it has to be very early in the headquarter or very soon to have the story that, I don't know,
Oh, yeah. Right.
Argentina, scored. And
Yeah.
so they paid a lot of money to get a bigger pipe than the others. And so they really needed our system that we could, per connected end user, control really the pipe. At least the
Right.
class of service, not quality of, but TC, traffic shaping rules.
I was going to
That's
say, it's obviously a bigger pipe is a bigger pipe, but
a bigger
as
pipe is a
we've
bigger
talked
pipe,
about
exactly.
many times, it's a lot more than that, especially in a use case like that where you need like almost instantaneous communication with no delay whatsoever, and it matters to your bottom line. Right.
There are, meanwhile, a ton of more use cases where you need this. Yeah, right. So that was the crown of what we did in our enterprisey stuff. But you realize, hey, we already remote configured routers. We broke up all the processes which are needed.
Mhm.
How does the device, the chicken egg problem? How does an unconfigured device get into the internet? All of that.
Right, right, right.
So
Well,
we
that's
were
interesting because so that instantly translated into everything else later, right? So like a
exactly.
TR69 comes along and you're like, oh, we know how
Oh
to
well, yes,
handle that.
exactly. So that's the missing part now. I mean, it took me personally a year. I mean, I was beginning of 2005. I had the idea, man, all this super dynamic policy control, where you constantly switch traffic shaping and IP tables rules on a router. That's cool. That's nice. All connected with centralized user profiles. Super cool. But alone the fact to be able to statically configure a remote device in Spain with a profile you based on certain settings and information about the certain site, that's huge in telco. They
Yeah,
still
yeah.
ship CDs around, right?
They
And
wait, they still ship CDs around?
back then it was like
Oh, back
that.
then they
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I realized
Yeah,
this when I had the first problem with my internet at home. And I
yeah.
realized that the supporter, when I called, has no idea what I see. And he asked me if I see a green lawn on my on my screen.
Oh, geez.
you know?
I
And so
remember
I
those discs because I was
and
like, obviously I was like had to set up things for my friends and stuff.
yeah, you
And
remember those times, right?
oh yeah, yeah.
You
Back
were
when back when
also a
there wasn't
boomer.
even a router, right? Sometimes it was just a modem, and you
Right,
had
modem,
one
yeah,
one
right.
PC that was connected,
Exactly.
and you
Yes.
had to pay extra to have more than one PC connected.
Yes. Yes. No, we never had such a thing in Germany, but I know you
Yeah,
had
no,
that.
Comcast was they were magical. They weren't.
Mhm.
They were. I don't think they were even Comcast back then.
I don't know. I don't know. I studied in the US a year, but I didn't follow telco at all. I'm a physicist, so I was just
You are a physicist.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I didn't know. Did I know? I think I knew that. What made you? So that's great because what made you get into this then?
Siemens.
What?
Siemens. That's
Yeah.
the
Well,
closing.
were you doing more like EE side physics? But you were a physicist, like a
I was
physics
doing
major,
more QED stuff and
right?
some chromodynamics, but
Oh,
QED
cool,
was
cool,
my
cool.
favorite. So drawing Feynman diagrams all
Oh
day.
man, oh man. If I had another life, that's the thing that I would do is go back for physics.
Yeah,
It's like my favorite.
yes, and meanwhile, there are so cool things. I mean, I recently checked this delayed choice quantum eraser, where you get into the, you rethink the whole quantum mechanics again, and you realize, man, there's something deep, really, really deep built in, which confirms a little bit the simulation theory.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all behaves like, damn, there is something. Why does this particle know that someone in 10 years will open the envelope, which shows if it has an interference
Right,
pattern,
right.
or this is, delayed choice quantum erasure, and also this uncertain remote action from a distance, and all
Hmm.
that's those things. It's really set up in a way as I would do it if I need to save energy to compute the universe.
Right, right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Where like you're
Yeah.
uncovering the thing that was put in place so that the universe could be computed.
Yes, right. Exactly, exactly. Man, so there I would like to be a student again and talk to my professors. In America, especially during the studies in the US, the professors are far closer to the students
Yeah.
than
Oh,
in
really?
Germany. Yeah, totally. Because
Hmm.
in the US, the professor anticipates himself as basically hired by the students, and it is the case like that. I mean, you pay a lot of tuition, while in Germany education is free, and they
Oh, I see what you're
it's a
saying. Right,
different
right, right, right.
relation.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
The-
because I've been burned on the other side of that though in the U.S. where, because somebody is there, like I've been burned in where I've had professors that did not want to teach. Right, they were there to do research, but
yeah,
they
that's
had to. They were
okay,
required to teach, and that
okay.
sucks for the students because you don't want somebody doing something they don't want to do. Right.
Which university was this? Sounds like high end.
This was at UNH, and then they ended up
UNH.
replacing that.
Okay, yeah,
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 it was actually physics
yeah.
too, and they ended
Yeah.
up replacing that guy for us. And the new guy we got was awesome. He was German.
Uh,
His name was Dr. Mobius.
okay, that's
Sounds
that's
like
a
a
name.
supervillain name, right?
That's super villain. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But he was great. He was so great, and like he got me all back into it again. And
Hmm.
but then I got into computer networking, and that's
Yes.
but my major is actually philosophy.
Oh, really?
Yep,
That
yep.
that
So,
that explains a lot. Okay, okay,
doesn't
okay.
it?
Yeah, it does. It
Well,
does.
because
It
it
does.
gets me thinking about the physics stuff, and I've always sort of run into this thing where like it's like have you ever read Thomas Kuhn, the
Thomas Kuhn.
structure of yeah the structure of scientific revolutions,
I,
where
I
he
heard
talks
about
about
him, but sorry, reading was not the biggest part of my life in the last in this Axiros, right? So tell me, tell
I
us.
don't have time to do it anymore.
I don't have. Yeah.
Long story short, he wrote about the history of science. He's the one who coined the word paradigm as we use it today, right?
Oh, okay.
And so his whole thing was that like there's like normal science and then there's breakthrough science, and the normal science keeps using the language of the old science to try to describe the new things that they're discovering until they can't do it anymore. And then somebody comes along and finds a new way to describe things down to like, but that's down to like the language around it. Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like, I always think about that when it comes to some of those weird some of those weird quantum dynamics things,
yeah,
because it's like, are we just really just using the wrong words to try to understand this? Right.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
like force it into the old words,
Yeah, because the words reflect how our neurons are wired, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you need really a disruptive change here to.
So it's like spooky action at a distance. What does that really mean? Right. Does it mean it's at a distance, or does that word not mean anything anymore? Right.
I think we should stop here because we will burn the 45 minutes.
Oh, we will. We will. We could talk about physics
That
the entire rest of the show.
you can
I'm okay with
relabel
that.
your podcast series. I'm getting a little
But
bit
no, but
dark
that's
here.
really cool. I didn't know that. So you were doing you were doing stuff based on. Do you have a master's or just or a bachelor's? What I don't know what the equivalent is.
In Germany, there's a so-called diplom.
Mhm.
And I did a pretty good one. So Siemens offered me to hey, please stay here, and they immediately offered me a job, And I wanted to do a PhD at my quantum stuff, and then I said no, sorry, I'm a physicist, I don't do. And then I went to the I already started, and I told everybody the story there, also the postdocs. And they told me, you have to know with in the quantum world, it works too good. The standard model is just so amazingly correct, and there is no unexpected stuff happening, at least back then, that the academic careers were really like not so many,
Right.
because there was no new physics. There's,
Right.
It was just working too well. And so one or two postdocs approached me and said, look at me, he's having a half-time postdoc job, not very well paid. Maybe he gets a professor if he's lucky. But he said, you are so stupid. You go to Siemens, do this.
Yeah.
If you have a job offer then there. And,
Right.
So I decided to quit my academic career for Mammon.
Right. Because I say that because like you're basically doing like an engineering job for them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was the center. Back then, the Siemens still had a huge central research and development department, really with a lot of focus on research.
Right.
So it was also interesting to analyze some physics around what Siemens Semiconductors back then did. They had I still have actually here in Munich a research factory where they produce bipolar transistors, and there we did some analysis on how you get the process better.
This is so funny to me because, and maybe it's just selection bias of the people who are my friends that end up on the show, but like, I feel like so many of us that I talk to are, especially hardware people that are now in software, and it's like the natural progression.
It's a natural progression. Yeah, right. At a certain point in hardware, you cannot accept this natural limits of I cannot change this now.
No, it's
and in
true,
software,
right?
you can change.
You can do anything. You can do anything.
Yes.
Zach here said that the other day. We were talking about something, and I in a meeting, and one of us said, "Is that even possible?" He's like, "Anything's possible. It's up."
It's exactly. I tell this my guys now all day long, oh, we can't do this. Yeah, you can do this. It's software. And I know I shouldn't.
So when in 2006, when I met you at that first Plug Fest, how big was Axiros then?
I said 15 people.
15?
Yeah, we had no funding, nothing. We still have no investors, so we grew. Meanwhile, we are 10 times the size.
Yeah.
But back then, it was a wild ride. And also, thanks to you, I really feel a lot of gratitude for you, for what you did here. To get this standard into the world, it changed everything, right? In our lives. But
in a way, that's hard for me to explain to people, right? Because I'm always like, what do you work on? Well, it's very rewarding because if I look at my own router and I see all the settings for tier 69 or USP, it's very exciting for me because I'm like, hey, I built that. But
yeah, I mean, I must admit, sometimes I get a little, I don't know. I had too many of these little devices in my life, but it's still it's something relevant. It's a relevant technology, and back then in Siemens, some of these chips were done for video recorders, and I realized in the marketing meetings they really were having to think a lot about how could we add new features which nobody needed actually, because, well, you want to record videos, okay, but the on-screen display we could do with the true color and stuff. And you think of, man, is this really relevant? What I do here is that this new chip can now produce the menu
Yeah.
in rainbow colors, and
Yeah.
you ask this meaning crisis, but you get into this crisis, but because you want to do something relevant. And
Right.
what
Right.
we do is I mean, look at us talking here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is
No.
so
Right.
fucking relevant.
No, I mean, none of us would be here. I would be here.
Exactly. No, I mean, I have kids, so they can. You have also kids, I know, and they couldn't. Their life would, I mean, take this mobile phone out of her hand, or I mean, and it's crazy how relevant this is. What we do.
No, it's pretty rewarding, but even if it's like really under the surface, and it's I don't know, it's like now it's fun kind of being in it the whole time and coming crashing through, because I'm from the generation that the internet didn't exist until I was
Me too. Yeah.
in high school, right? When I was in high school, and then it was only it was like bulletin board services and Prodigy and AOL and those things, right?
Yeah. That was my time in the US. AOL, yes.
Yeah. Or I remember like Prodigy, they were like their own internet, right? They were their own little. You would go in and they all had their own games and their own little encyclopedias before the web, right?
Right. Yeah. Still, they produce content like hell. Yeah.
But I think about it now, right? And coming through, and it's super weird for our industry because we have the operator world and the retail world that kind of do this from time to time, right?
Yeah.
Because consumer networking came from the consumer electronics side of things, right? Like it wasn't when you had your phone from AT&T and you had a modem, like a dial-up modem, you weren't going through AT&T for that. You were going and calling AOL, right? So they were totally removed from the picture. Yeah. So we all experienced it from a consumer electronics world, right? And that bubbled all the way up into the home gateways, right? And so we experienced the home gateways as retail products for, as consumer electronics. Right.
I wonder why this is, why our operators, although so important, they deliver the biggest, most important good I consume all day long. Why are they not liked? It's crazy. Right? I mean, why are they not able to be the, proactive first mover in each of these technologies where they have this central focal position, which nobody else has, control the router, see both sides. I mean, back then it was not the case. You had the modem and you could not do anything except the physics. But
still people who are like, should I buy my own router? Those guys at AT&T or whatever, or at Comcast, they're screwing you by making you pay for that router. And it's like, no, like there are a lot of great things that they can do if you're using the one that they give you.
Exactly. I have seen so many. I mean, we have, I don't know, 300 operators as a customers, and they are all, they invest so much in getting the experience better. And no, never heard any bad intention. We could, spy on the user or whatnot. And I never read a story that this is done by anybody else. No. It never happens. While on the over the tops, the so liked over the tops, I don't want to name.
That's the point.
What?
They do it all the time.
They do it all the time. That's their business model. I mean, it's crazy.
That's funny. Yeah. Right. But the people we don't trust are the operators.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Maybe it's this gut feeling that you are so dependent on them, on their goods. It's like when I was 16 or so, I was like, you get in this revolutionary age where you question. I mean, some not. I was where you question the system and actually the system which nurtures you, you question your parents and everything.
Yeah.
You're totally dependent. You're totally dependent on them, but you question them.
You're railing against capitalism on
right. You're railing. Exactly. I was fully immersed in that and totally dependent on it and found my way in the system. but maybe
Yeah.
it's such a counter reaction. So, and
Well,
we
so, but
eventually we grow up and get to love our our internet
no, I
providers.
think it's totally weird. I never thought that I would be such an advocate, but now I understand the bullshit they have to go through.
Yes, yes.
They get blamed for everything and they get nothing out of it. Like,
Now even have to are responsible for my own Wi-Fi problems it's crazy, right? I mean,
right.
this is it's amazing
So,
though. Yeah.
well, let's talk about that though, because we know where we are at now, especially from Axiros' perspective of trying to present these options to operators to be able to do more. Like,
Right.
are they getting receptive to this kind of thing? Like, are there people who are actually going to try to change their business model so they can be sort of more ahead of the curve in that regard? Or
I mean, what I got, I mean, in Paris it's my point of view still the most relevant show for us regarding technical, these technical talks you have.
Mhm.
While in other shows you meet more, the non-technical people, which
Right,
actually
it
are
ends
not
up
so.
being sort of the same story over and over again because
Yeah, right, right.
you can only tell business model, like business side stories
Yeah.
so many times before it's just you're repeating the same stuff.
I'm
It could be
not
any
going.
industry.
I'm not going to these shows. It's not my
Yeah.
words. But in Paris, I had so many talks with relevant people, and what I see is even before, let's say, these new product offerings will happen, which I think are overdue since 10 years. When you control the router, which sees both sides, you have to
Hmm.
offer these products. I mean, I was talking about such a product in the beginning of our talk, right?
Hmm.
Treat the traffic different between all the stations in the homes.
Yep.
And you
Yep.
can do so much. I mean, home portals and all this. But before that happens, I think pretty much all of them were realizing, and I think this AI marketing was playing a little part here as well, that we should do more with the data we see. It's not about config; it's more about state. So
Right. Right.
query, check how we are doing out there. Check this better. Find
Yeah.
out better in better ways and more often, more frequent, and more, let's say, sophisticated why certain users cannot enjoy the service as they should,
Right. Right.
and they cannot differentiate
Or
why
finding out
this
that
is
they're not enjoying it before they say something, because a lot of them might
exactly,
not even say anything; they just leave.
and maybe fix it,
Yeah. Yeah.
even proactively if you can. And there are so many failure vectors or so many different things which can happen where you could fix. I mean, in one of your last podcasts, you were talking about the obvious one, the nightly reboot. But you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was funny. It shouldn't be necessary, but
Oh man.
I
I
mean,
would love to have been in the pitch meeting for that
I
feature.
mean, to build it in as a vendor, as a static daily routine. That's a little bit that I never. I had to laugh so loud when you guys said this. It was with
Uh,
Blackford, I think, right, with John.
yep. Yep.
It was so
We
funny.
always used to say stupid ACSs will do stupid things, but stupid devices will do stupid things too.
Oh, you can do very smart things with an ACS. Come
Yeah.
on,
No, no.
you can do this reboot, but you can do it pretty,
Hmm.
nicely when it really doesn't affect anything. Because I mean,
Yep.
you see what's going on the device
Right.
before you
Right.
hit the
Right.
button. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember what was it like 2 years ago? You were talking about how the where you were seeing the bread and butter was going to be in using some form of AI to coordinate things a little bit better.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It makes I mean, it's obvious in many cases. I mean, yesterday I got a presentation from an employee here in Bolivia, and what he did is just it was amazing. He's
Really?
using. They saw this. They are actually doing our device qualifications, and they checked All these vendor-specific attributes. There's so much TR98 out there. Maybe
Sorry, I'm
you
so
should
sorry.
explain. You should explain it. I don't. I
Oh,
know.
I'll
I
explain
think.
that really quickly, right? So without diving into the meaning of what a data model is, it's effectively just a way that the computers understand what a device is and what it supports and how to do it, right? And that information is conveyed over the protocols that we use. So when we originally made TR69, there was a very, very old version of that data model that was based on the UP&P data model that became what we call TR98. And it's an old way of doing things. It's not that great. We made a new way of doing those things called TR181. But as we were just talking, like the industry is big and slow. And
Yep.
so there are a lot of installations out there that just got sort of locked into that for a number of reasons that I won't get into. But
Yep.
so we still have to deal with it to this day. And I apologize because that might have just been a technology marketing problem.
Oh, I realize my cam is not good. It's a
It's all good.
business laptop, but it's really not. Now it's better, I think.
I think you said you look great, even if it's pixelated.
American way of lying. No. I know. You know this. I damaged
Oh yeah,
my
yeah.
forehead last year. It's crazy.
It was
Bike accident.
I'll tell the story. You were actually chasing down some bank robbers on a bike, right?
Yeah,
And you were kind of dodging and weaving between things,
exactly. And
and
the
they whipped
bullets
around.
everywhere.
Yeah, bullets were flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they whipped around at the last minute, ditched their motorcycle, slid into you. You flipped over and hit your head. And that's just what happened.
Yeah, it was worth it. So these TR98 data models, right? And they have seen so many, and they try in analytical ways to find out where these Wi-Fi settings are and these voice settings by exploring the device and matching key names. And the guy just wrote an AI for it, and it's working like a charm. It's crazy, He scans the data, a CPE full of vendor-specific parameters, and then you can ask it questions like, "Hey, where are my VLAN IDs and where's my Wi-Fi?" And
Ooh.
he did this because the analytical models were failing because certain vendors.
Oh yeah.
I
Right.
don't want to name names here, but they're big names, and you see they have their data model is full of typos. Typos,
Ugh.
actual typo.
Ugh.
Typos which jump into your eye when you look at it, and the analytic data model parsers failed. Because what would you do if this key has a typo in it?
So he wrote something to kind of just like learn what the device thinks it's supposed to be meaning, and then
Yeah, right. So he
that's cool.
uses really language models, large language models, a few of them. So we don't want to burn too much CPU, but you can ask it pretty sophisticated questions about anything in and around, this certain domain of Wi-Fi, fiber, and whatnot, and he will find out the parameter name in a vendor specific. Just a tech demo, but they are still using it, already using it for their device qualifications.
That's
So
lovely.
that's what I try to say. There are very, very obvious and not so obvious ways to apply AI. The obvious
Hmm.
ways, and this one I would have said is not so obvious because a data model is a data model. I would never expected a typo there, but they see this and they have to cope with it, and they fix it with AI. While the obvious one I see is more for like validation, because when you look at the device, you see already pretty much. You get a pretty good picture of, especially when you know the tree also where the device is. And when you see those 5 devices failing, that okay, the devices are not the problem, but it's this point in the tree which is failing.
Right, right,
Obviously,
right,
this
right.
passive element here is failing because these I don't know
Oh,
500
that's
devices fail
interesting.
in the same in the same amount in the same time frame. Like in
Right,
this.
right, right, right.
So you can when you have the topology, you can totally. So you see so much when you monitor the devices. The devices that these hubs, how you call them in the States, I think, this home routers which see both sides, the home
Right.
and the uplink. You can derive so much information.
Oh, that's true. I never thought of that. So yeah, you can derive information about like the other parts of the network that might be failing for those people. That's
Exactly.
crazy.
Even indirectly, like I said, this
Right.
was an example of indirect deduction when you monitor the whole field of your service delivery devices, of all the leaves in the tree, you have a good understanding of the tree. But and obvious to me is, but the problem is what we had in our history or so is typically our monitoring systems run pretty autonomous. So you just see the devices information, and we typically, thanks to security departments and whatnot, okay, not to question security departments, but still, we miss the validation data. We see so much patterns, so much. When use an AI and dig the data, you get so much out of it, but you don't know how relevant it is.
Right.
And the obvious one is, for me, hey, give us please validation. So where did you really have to send a field engineer, and when did you really get a call from a subscriber complaining about stuff? And please, if possible, with the category, so that you can use this and then train your AI. So it's validation. I mean, this is a clear necessity when you want to have,
right. And then it just gets better and better and better.
Exactly. Because then you apply it on the field, on the total field, and predict. Hopefully predict. I mean,
now, are you guys doing anything where you're using that sort of concept on sort of the entire installation base? So you can sort of
in analytical in the normal analytical ways. Yes, we do a lot, especially on the cable side of things. It's even defined by the standards. How to find out certain patterns which tell you, oh, there's a suck out. It's pretty analog technology, this cable stuff. So we had to do it anyway, and so our machine learning skills were built already many years ago.
Oh, cool.
And then from that, then going into fiber and all that stuff.
Yeah, right.
But it's really more analytics on the AI side. We really, as said, we miss this cross domain pattern. So that, and in Paris, I anticipated, or I realized that people are getting into the idea. Hey, if we combine this low level view of reality, where 90% of the whole information really is, in the field, and combine this with maybe more 99%, I would say, but give it a little bit of high level information, and if you combine these two, then poof, you get a explosion of value. It's crazy.
Well, right. It's like it's a sheer order of magnitude thing, right? It's like when when you have that much more data, you have that much more stuff you can do. Like when you decrease the power consumption of one router, nobody cares. But when you decrease the power consumption of 100 million routers,
it's the same analogy. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this will happen before. So there will a huge focus shift from configuration towards the other direction, getting data out of the field and draw conclusions about how the services are doing.
Right.
But then I think finally my old dream, or whatever you want to call it, to really utilize the Linux kernel better, and have a central instance, have here this powerful enforcer of decisions you decide centrally. And leave it to the user what he makes. I mean, all with consent. I'm not talking of some stuff done without any user consent, but you could do it far better than any of these over-the-top players, which get the consent for even really crazy. I mean, I would never think that I type my password into this application, but it's so convenient, and so I do it. But if you control the router and can redirect traffic, and you can do it very convenient offerings. So to make typical users, I guess in the US, doesn't even know how many devices are even connected to this router.
Nope.
have an IP stack on them. I mean, referring to what the guy from Verizon said last time. You remember? He said, I think 36 devices on average. I mean, if I imagine this, this is a lot.
I could lose count. I don't know. I would try to think of it out loud in my head, but
yeah. I have a good home router. I have this port. They did a lot to build such a portal on this restricted device, which in my point of view is crazy. The idea to continue to build, nice looking portals compete with central server systems regarding, we want to build a super nice portal on a little
so bad
on embedded hardware.
There's no reason for the GUI on the router anymore.
Right, like, exactly. No reason at all.
And it's the biggest security risk too.
Yeah, true,
just having an open HTTP server.
Yeah. If you want to offer, if you want to offer access from the internet on this restricted thing, and how do you even keep up with all the vulnerabilities of your SSL stack and whatnot?
It's pretty bad.
It's bad, yeah. So you have the same vision as well, right?
It's good though, because I really do think, and this is going to be a nice little way to wrap up everything that we're talking about, because I really think that the operators
time went
right
by. Crazy.
We could do this for another hour if you want. It's all heuristics. The duration of these shows is totally. I never decided ahead of time.
I see.
Yeah, so I think operators are catching on, right? So the broadband forum survey that they just did, the most wild piece of information to me that never would have occurred to me when we asked the operators, it was like 111 operators. We asked them what their most important thing to them was in selecting a CPE, and it was security by a huge margin. Oh yeah, it was 70% said security. The next biggest one was like 50%. And cost was like four bullets down. So it was like security, performance.
So security, all aspects of security. It's like...
Yeah. I imagine it's the security of the gateway, because we worded it that way. I don't know if it has to be, because we also asked like what value-added services they plan on deploying, and cybersecurity was up there, but it wasn't like the top one, right? It was mostly managed Wi-Fi and stuff. So they must have understood the difference. I really think they meant the security of the box itself, right? Okay. Isn't that crazy? Like, I mean, it's good news.
It's good news.
At least it's top of mind, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not doing too much, out there anymore. I'm more, in my innovation ivory tower and yeah. But from time to time, I do have my talks. But I would have never guessed that this is top of the list. I mean, it was always cost first, to be competitive, and then
right. That's what I get a thought too. And what's also interesting? Omdia included data from some other surveys they did, because they did some consumer surveys. Okay. Consumers are also not that. The cost was not the number one thing for them. For their service. Yeah. You could imply from their answers that they're willing to pay more for something that is good, rather than just the price.
that I knew already. So that consumer, because they all realize how important it is to have a good pipe, and B, a reliable somebody who cares for this pipe. Yeah, and they are willing to pay for this. Yes. Yeah. As in my family as well.
I would exactly. I keep talking about this on the show about how it's very cool that we get to work in the networking products that we also use.
Yes. Right? So the circle closes every day when I get home, and totally
cool.
And I want to be with the provider I am, because I know I had others, and this one is the best. And I trust. I mean, I'm with them. They took care for me when I had problems, with my little power line adapter at home. they cared for it, and I really want to give it back. I mean, they use my ACS, but this
Oh man, that must be super humbling.
it's super humbling. I always try to explain them at the hotline that they could use this ACS to find out that I have a power line adapter. But she, hotline first level, she didn't.
Oh man, I feel that.
It was breaking me. No, you don't have to send this field engineer. But
they should give you your own. They should give you your own login. You'd think they would.
They should, yes. But it's a big provider here in Germany. I think we don't get into the production systems for a reason, right. And because if we would have wanted to be there, then we couldn't use our devices in the way that we love to use them anymore. It's really.
I get you. Yeah.
It's relevant.
All right. So, knowing what you know from all of the 300 customers that Axiros has, what is the one piece of advice you would give to operators that are looking forward to the stuff that you guys we as the industry are trying to do for them?
Well, one red line, and I think you had this topic a few times already in yours, is don't fall into the trap and go away from the standard. The standard might be lagging. I see this so many times, meanwhile, that the idea is so striking. I came from the same idea. I founded the company with that idea. If you could do something with this Linux router, with the software you build, and have the other side, you can do so much stuff, and you can do more stuff than others are doing. And then you build it in the lab. You maybe find even a manufacturer who builds it for you in quantities. And then you go to a customer or an operator and convince him of these super cool features. And they might fall into the trap and go for it because, we can do this now. Okay, we now force, if they have market power, we force all our vendors to get this soft piece of software onto the devices.
Right.
But it's always a downhill battle because if it has value, if it has a reason to be done, then the standard will inevitably follow. And as soon as that happens, the standard in no time overtakes because it's a standard and it's getting contributions
that's a great
from
way to put
everybody.
It. I'm going to quote this later because that's exactly the problem, right? It's like it's not you can do it in the proprietary way, but it's not sustainable.
You are forced. It's not sustainable. Exactly. You are forced in the first 1, 2, 3 years or so, but if it has a reason to be done, if it makes sense to do it, then the standard will follow always.
Right.
I had this so many
and we're
times.
Trying to be faster, right? Yeah. Like on the standard side of things, we are trying. Well, a lot of it is Daniel's help, right? From data modeling, we are trying to be faster.
We try to be ahead, man. We could use him for soldering console cables on. No. That would be not needed anymore. Not needed anymore. But it's good. But I think you like to hear that, right? So the guy really knows how a chip really works on a. So I.
Oh yeah,
but you take him serious anyway. I realized in Paris.
We do take him very seriously until we're not taking him seriously.
Exactly.
I say that if you come to the broadband user services and we're being too nice to you, then that's when you should worry. It's when we're giving you shit that you know that we trust you.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a red line. Red liner. No, red line has a different meaning. We have in Germany a saying, roter Faden. It's a thread which goes throughout a longer period of time. Whole history of Axiros actually that he is more often right than I would like to. He actually always.
That's totally what it is too.
We had in Paris. Right. We had in Paris this discussion about USP via WebSocket or MQTT, and I know I'm getting a little bit political because but
it shouldn't be though. It shouldn't there for reasons.
It shouldn't be, but he was right also here, and you know his opinion. I won't even say.
I do know his opinion.
Yeah, and I really experienced it in a POC last week where I was involved because I wanted to see it, and I really after this talk, I could sign every little statement about this other way, the wrong way of doing it. But anyway, it's better than anything before.
All right. Well, thanks, Gunther. I appreciate you coming on. I know we were going to try to actually do this at Network X, but man, there's so much going on.
Yes,
so much going on.
It was a good one this year. Totally.
Yeah. Good. Well, then good. I guess we'll go back next year then.
Totally. Yeah. Like always. Yeah. Paris again, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Same place.
Yeah. Good.
All right.
Then let's see. Let's see which one will have made it of the two options.
Right. Well,
let's see.
They'll both make it. They'll both be there forever. All right.
Could be.
So, please,
like us, right?
Yeah, we'll be here forever.
We will be here forever.
Please do subscribe to this on YouTube if you're watching right now. You can find Axiros at www.axiros.com. Axiros, yeah. They have a lot of great information. They have a lot of good blog there too. You guys write some good content about this stuff, especially about USP lately. So check that out. Do comment, do share this around, and we'll see this next week. We'll put this out next week. Always good to see you, Gunther. I didn't get to tell my anecdote about.
We didn't tell that story. Maybe
the first time that I ever met Gunther, then I picked him up in my Jeep and brought him to the podcast. I wanted to title the episode that, but we can talk about it next time.
You need some paid content also, man.
Yeah, I really do. Right. All right. In the meantime, everybody, own the nerdy things that you love and have fun doing them. And we'll see you next time.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.